DogWorks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com.
Start your day tomorrow with The Daily Dog with Michele Forto, the morning podcast on DogWorks Radio. Apple Podcast reviewer Patty Christensen calls it funny, smart, and filled with all the info I want to know about dogs. I love this show. Wake up with The Daily Dog. Available on DogWorks Radio on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your shows.
You are listening to The Daily Dog with your host, Michele Forto. The Daily Dog offers training advice, tips and tricks, and maybe even a book or movie review, too.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Michele Forto with The Daily Dog. We're going to continue our series, The Principles of Learning and Behavior. Learning theory is a psychological field that is of tremendous importance to anyone who is involved regularly with canines. Learning theory is comprised of a vast array of behavioral concepts and principles that have been derived from experimental studies of behavior. The men and women that were discussed in the previous sections conducted some of the most important studies that led to the principles and assumptions accepted by most learning theorists today. Learning theory refers to information that has been gathered about the way living organisms adjust to their environments. Various laws also govern it, and/or assumptions that dictate the way an organism, in this case canines, changes its behavior as a result of experiences. When researching learning in canines, there are 4 questions the researcher is trying to answer. 1. What do canines learn? 2. How does the learning take place? 3. What conditions are necessary for learning to occur? 4. How is learning related to behavior? If a dog's behavior is to be changed, one must understand how a dog learns, and more importantly, how the learning relates to the canine's behavior. There is not a clear-cut definition of learning. In general, learning is something that cannot be seen directly. The results of learning can be seen, however, through changes in behavior. For the purpose of this, learning will be defined as a relatively permanent change in behavior that results from training or interaction with the environment. Variables. In a laboratory setting, learning is studied by conducting tightly controlled experiments. Variables in experiments are defined as any factor that changes or can be changed. There are 3 primary types of variables. 1. Dependent. 2. Independent. 3. Intervening. Dependent variables are variables that researchers are likely to be most interested in. Often these variables represent a behavior that the researcher is trying to explain. Dependent variables, as the name suggests, are dependent upon some other variable, usually the independent variable. The independent variable is a factor or stimuli that the researcher introduces into the experiment to see what effect it does or does not have on the dependent variable. Usually the primary goal of an experiment is to see if the independent variable indeed affects the dependent variable. In other words, the independent variable is the cause and the dependent variable is the effect. Intervening variables are not as clear-cut as the other types of variables. They are not something that can be seen or heard, but one can assume that they are because of the effects that they have on the dependent variable. Intervening variables are used primarily to help explain and/or predict a relationship between an independent variable and a dependent variable. Factors that affect learning. There are many things that can have an effect on canine learning. Genetics, instinct, environment, and early handling all play important roles in a canine's ability to adapt. Ethologists are researchers that have traditionally studied by focusing on instinctive behaviors while observing their subjects under relatively natural conditions. These researchers feel that instinctive behavior develops with little, if any, dependence on learning. An example of this would be the raising of canines' hackles when the canine perceived a threat. Instinct refers to an unlearned behavior common to a particular species or an inborn tendency to behave in a certain way. According to Dr. Polonsky, there are many benefits in humans handling puppies early in life. Brief handling during the first 3 weeks of life has effects such as increased vitality and resistance to diseases, larger adult size, increased activity levels, increased confidence, more social dominance, improved learning and problem-solving abilities, less intense emotional reactions. Another significant factor that affects canines' learning is its threshold to stimuli. The term threshold refers to the level of stimulation that must be attained in order to solicit a response. For example, if hunting dogs would require a high startle threshold to loud noises, if your golden retriever runs away when someone clapped his or her hands, his threshold or startle reflex is too low. An important factor related to thresholds is response magnitude, or the strength of a response to the stimuli. Response magnitude is generally related to the intensity of the said stimulus. Another example may be if a certain noise were to elicit a startle response, a similar noise that is louder would likely bring forth an even stronger response. Up next is the breed of the day. Today's breed is the Britney. Named for the French province in which it originated, the Britney was first registered by the American Kennel Club as the Britney Spaniel in 1934. Although called a spaniel, by its manner of working game, the Britney belongs with the pointing breeds. In appearance, the breed is smaller than the setters, but leggier than the spaniels, having a short tail and characteristic high ear set. On September 1st, 1982, the breed's official AKC name became Britney, to more correctly identify their hunting style. Though it is generally conceded that the basic stock for all bird dogs is the same, most of the facts concerning the development and spread of the various breeds are lost in antiquity. The first accurate records to pinpoint the actual Britney-type dog are 17th century paintings and tapestries. General appearance of a Britney: a compact, closely knit dog of medium size, a leggy dog having the appearance as well as the agility of a great ground coverer. Strong, vigorous, energetic, and quick of movement. Ruggedness without clumsiness is a characteristic of the breed. He can be tailless or has a tail docked to approximately 4 inches. The temperament of the Britney is a happy, alert dog, neither mean nor shy. Thank you for listening to The Daily Dog. We hope you join us next time.
Did you know that Alaska Dog Works trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michele Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska Dog Works on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.
If you like our podcast, there are a few things you can do. You can take a couple of minutes and go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also check out all of our DogWorks Radio sponsors and promotions in our show notes. Another thing you can do is go over to Facebook, like our Facebook page, and one last thing, please tell all of your friends by spreading the word about DogWorks Radio. Thank you so much for listening to us. We really appreciate you.
DogWorks Radio is produced by Robert Forto. Logo art by Angry Squirrel Studios. DogWorks Radio is produced in conjunction with KVRF 89.7 in Palmer, Alaska.
For dog training advice, You can contact Alaska Dogworks at 907-841-1686 or visit their website at alaskadogworks.com. If you have a show idea or would like to be a guest, please contact us by sending an email to live@dogworksradio.com.